Welcome to Portland, Oregon's Blender User Group, PortlandPDX, and presenting in the World Blender Meetup Day for 2016. My name is Javelian, also known as Januvial, and we have a packed room for our usual group today for this big celebration. Thanks Sterling and David Andrade for setting it all up. First, I'd like to start off and say, what is PortlandPDX? Because not a lot of people, especially people outside of Portland, Oregon, know what PDX is. Most people are familiar with LAX being Los Angeles International Airport. PortlandPDX is Portland International. And we are very international, which I will get into that. We've got some people who join us on a regular basis online. Another big question that people have is, what is that blue rooster's waddle doing on the Blender logo? That is not a rooster's waddle. That is our Blender splash, or PDX splash, excuse me, because over here in Oregon we have a rather soggy climate, and we have other water experiences over here too, with the bigger football teams, college football teams, being Beavers and Ducks, which we're looking on making a duckbill platypus for our mascot for PortlandPDX. On our international participants, I don't know if they're out there right now. I was trying to look for them on Zoom, but I wasn't able to find them. Yassine, we've had. Angel Ubakir is a disciple of Oliver VR, famous Blend Tuts. Master Zeon's been one of our guests one time. Thank you very much, Master Z, for showing up, and we'd love to have you any of our other third Saturdays of the month showing up. We've also have Paul Burke from Canada. I can't remember which province in Canada, but he's a regular of ours too, and thank you all. If I didn't mention your name, some of the other regulars that show up, forgive me, my memory is failing me. And those guys give us a good, steady membership to complement the rest of us here locally. Honorable mentions I'd like to make, Paul Coons. He's a founder of ours, been here just about every single meeting. Thank you, Paul. Stand up, bow. Eugene is not here today, Eugene Helajammer, and James Gable is here today. James manning the chat rooms on a regular basis and doing so now. Thank you very much, James. And let's see, who else? Again, if I'm forgetting somebody's names on that I should be mentioning, forgive me. A lot of other people that are going to present or have something else to contribute. We have admins for our website. Alex Fontana and Nate designed the website. And Chris, you're going to join in helping admin. Chris Kircham.
I don't know.
You don't?
You're going to set me up with a meeting.
Well, I told Alex, and he'll get with you. They're still working on it too. Maba, thank you very much for setting up our PortlandPDX Twitter account. And I'm manning the Gmail account.
What's in the Facebook page?
All of us are doing the Facebook page. So I should have been moving on. Here we have all the contacts here, and I had all this explaining some of the information on our logo. Sorry about that. And
are you sharing this screen right now?
yes, I am.
It still looks like up there, like you people are just looking.
Maybe we should get that screen down. How's that? Get that out of there, huh? How's that?
I just can't. No, that's cool. I just couldn't tell like whether you were sharing the webcam. Or,
I don't know. I hope we're doing all right.
Yeah,
I'm sure someone will tell us if we're not.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. We've had a wonderful year over 2015. So has Blender, as you can see, for upgrades. Just going to go through this briefly. On the first 2 months of the year, we were promoting Oliver VR's Learning Blender book. For those of you joining right now, Oliver VR was scheduled to do his own presentations on World Blender Meetup Day. I didn't catch to see if he was successful or not. He actually joined us in one of these meetings for about an hour, and that was about midnight to 1 a.m. his time in Spain. And we were flabbergasted when that happened. And we do have, we did have a group doing, members in our group doing reviews for his book on Amazon.com. Don't see him right off the bat here. Thought I had him queued up. Oh, got it. Anyway, we did a lot of contributions here, about 5 or 6 contributions, and those who did so got a free copy of the book. And Alex Fontana, one of our very active members, did lip syncing. That was good. You'll see that in one of our promos, which we should be playing at the end of our show here. And Portland Art Institute, our hosts, our gracious hosts, asked us to put together our own. Oh, I don't have it logged up, do I? Let's see here. There we go. I should have Rhett showing this. Portland Art Institute had us. Well, where is it? Let's try it again. Had us making our ad for our group to put on their plasma screens throughout the hallways here in the campus, and that's that there. All our contributions from various members that participate in our group, and Rhett Jackson, who will be arriving probably another half hour. He texted us, put this all together.
That's actually not.
Oh, it's not? Oh, you know what? Okay, thanks. Let's see here. See, I'm not used to Zoom. All right. Let's see. Your screen share is paused. Well, resume. Let's see. I don't know how to show a different screen. All right, well, we've got those lined up to show, and they were also submitted, some of those were submitted for dark times in between presentations on World Blender Meetup Day. Sorry about that, screwing up. I don't know how to use Zoom well enough. Anyway, back here was, in April, was Blender Guru, Andrew Price's Graphs Essentials came out. We don't need to cover all of these.
Hey, Jabarian, just a quick tip. If you share your desktop rather than a single application, then it helps.
Okay, so maybe if I stop sharing,
Yep.
and go back and share again, share the desktop.
That's right.
Okay, so let's try that.
Yeah, there you go. Now we can see it.
All right. This is just a silent, no audio track that we put together of our group. We're going to see about improving this and making a new ad each year as a group. So everybody in the group here right now that's hearing this, you make something and you're proud of it, we're going to contribute it to, and we'll put it together for the new AIPD ad that'll be shown on their plasma screens throughout the campus. They want us to do that to support their student body and encourage other potential students to come and visit. So
They teach Blender.
They teach Blender here? They have a class? I don't know. I don't know what their all their courses are. Nate just stepped out. Nate was an adjunct faculty here briefly for Flash, Adobe Flash class. Anyway, man, I was hoping Tinderbox, Kyle Rohn was going to show up. He hasn't yet, but Tinderbox Entertainment was one of our big big shows here. Let me see if I can show some of that off here. No. Here we go. Oh, I know where we got it. No. I must have closed it down. Let's do this. This is Paul Burks from Canada. If somebody thinks that they can't do field trips with us virtually, Paul Burke joined us at Tinderbox Entertainment and got this laser etch made through the internet. He didn't even have to be with us. So if you're international and want to join us, we will do our best to accommodate you. Got another one here. There's our Blender logo that we did a test drive on.
Laser burned.
Yeah, laser etching. Did I say laser etching? I'm sorry. And let's see here. I got one other one I can show. We'll stop sharing the screen for now. Let's see. Can we? Where are we?
Yeah, you're good.
It's good? No, it's not. It's down here in the bottom. Oh, it's over there.
This is what they're seeing.
Okay, so, all right, let's see here. This is, oh, there we go, okay. Oh, I'm not holding it right. Okay, so this was Paul Coons, got his Factory 5 logo done, laser etched. And since Tinderbox Entertainment isn't here to present, I can just do honorable mention. See, we've got a website for him up here. Let's see, Tinderbox Entertainment. I tell you, he is a creative inspiration. We went to his house and he hosted us personally in his house, and it's just a creative den of all kinds of muses to get your juices going, I tell you. He produces a lot of different stuff like the laser etched die and a lot of box games, and that's why he's called Tinderbox Entertainment.
He was trash talking Blender when we,
Oh, he was?
when we showed up.
Okay, where are we showing now here? Oh, here we are. Let's see. Back here, wrapping it up. The only other thing I'd like to mention on this is we've got a new tradition started by Rhett, one of our members. The monthly theme, it sort of blurs out when you zoom in here, but we started this back in October and November. We do not meet on December, by the way, the third Saturday of every month. So November's our last meeting of the year. But we started the monthly theme back in October and November, and we've got on our Facebook page every monthly theme set up for the next month of every meeting for this year in 2016.
It's March.
We'd have to look it up and find out. Maybe we can do that. I want to see if gotten any texts. Get that out of the way. Okay, so Rhett's on his way. Let's go here. Let's just go straight to March. March 19th. Low poly to high poly. Low poly, high poly. Rhett Jackson's suggestion.
Okay.
So I want to get some more details from him, but just going on a vague general theme, category, topic, or whatever, you do whatever you can or want, 5 minutes, 5 hours, do a little research, tutorials, and when you come back and see what everybody else has done on the same topic, you get to learn a little bit more than if you just did it by yourself or you just sat there and watched and listened to what somebody's presenting because you were involved in making it. So this monthly theme seems to be a promising aspect of our meetings. What, Chris?
Is he going to use this in an animation he's
This particularly, I don't know. I think he just got an image offline just to illustrate low poly for the theme. But I'd have to ask him. We'd have to ask him. He should be showing up.
So low point, high point, so what? Control free?
Well, see, there's a lot of things in there. If you did, it could involve retopology. And see, that's kind of why we don't want to over-define the themes, because it leaves it open for interpretations, and we see a lot of new different things.
Actually, it's high poly or low poly, isn't it? You want to start with
Well, okay, low poly, high poly, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking of going down to low poly from whatever I do, because I always make messy meshes. So
that's usually the workflow. Is start off with something high poly, you bake all those textures and everything, get like this
right
game like Unity ready low poly mesh.
Especially if you're sculpting, you get a lot of noise in there in that mesh, and you want to retopologize that and bring it down to low poly.
That's interesting. I usually go the opposite direction.
Do you? Well, maybe that's your presentation for the March meeting, and show us how, why, all that. So yeah. Anyway, that theme looks to be very promising for us. We're having a lot of fun with that. On from there, other things that we have in our meeting primarily is show and tell. And show and tell is like our biggest part of our meetings. And on with that, Nate, would you like to show your stuff? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah, you're not ready?
I'm ready.
I can try and see about juicing up something else if you're not ready.
Well, it's I was looking at the date of the models, and most of them for 2014, so I'm afraid I'm presenting the exact same show we had back a few years, the last one.
Okay.
But
I'll get that worked on, because you are an adjunct faculty here.
so just to kind of give people, does this share the screen if I play a video?
Are we sharing the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm going to start with, it's the project I've been working on and that the Blender group has kind of helped in the past on. It's called Little Red Cap. It's an anime-inspired style film that is now going on its 6th year of production, which is kind of sad. But I'm going to play the little bit of showcase. This is a mix of 2D and 3D. So any of the background or hard surface objects are using Blender, and then the foreground and 2D elements are drawn in Toon Boom or Illustrator and then composited. So this is a short, quick trailer, and we'll play this, and then I'll kind of go through some of the models. Let's try to go through some of the models, and this is definitely probably the biggest challenge of this project from the 3D Blender perspective has been model management and just trying to populate a world with that's so large with so many different kinds of models. And I'm definitely not been as concerned with as concerned with second. With quality, as much as I just need to get it enough to integrate it with the footage and quickly get through the shots. So it's more about research, getting the right model, and making sure that it can at least be textured quickly. The main credits, we kind of opened it up to the group. The kind of the prize, which I think Javelian's going to talk about later, is the Grandma's stove, which he did.
I wasn't planning on talking about it, but I can if you want.
It's definitely the model that kind of stands out. Alex Fontana has helped with quite a few of the filling in. It's got a military background, so kind of provides some consulting there. Brett Jackson, who will be in here a little bit later, has provided the record player, and he's also kind of a more technical consultant. And then anything that just needs to get done, I've kind of filled in. So the main characters of the film, and this is kind of the workbook that just kind of keeps everything together. Some of them are filled in, but then I just have all these assets. So Alex had done, the hatch. There's a lot of books. He had done this. It's just a lot of different things that have to be created to basically anything that's a hard object. So I'll kind of just go through these fairly quickly, pause on some of the more complicated ones that have more of a story.
Oh, yeah, I read that.
This is a Genuvo did this, which I seen that little add-on that we just saw the presentation for. I think it's going to help out, so I purchased that, so I'm going to start using that. Hard offs. This is Rhett's record player. Some of these things, I know that they don't have to be very good quality. It's more the style. So this is Grandma's rocking chair. It's just rug. You saw this in the little trailer.
Who did the Lennon bust?
The rug?
The Lennon bust.
Oh, I had done that.
You did that?
Yeah. And again, it's done really quick. Grandma's apartment is probably the most complicated just because it needs to be super messy and chaotic, and so you need hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of objects to go in it. Some of them more simple. Battling with trying to do really realistic spruce trees to populate this, northern environment. These are some other Javelian's models. Different. Yeah, these are models that are come directly from Soviet era televisions that this film is placed in. And then we have the wood stove that was a multiple month-long project.
Oh,
that
yes.
I'm sure I can talk about. And then this is kind of the part that takes a lot of time, is just building these worlds. So like this, just populating it with as much clutter as you can. You can see I've started to bring in a little bit of, coffee cups and papers and stuff, but it just takes a lot of time to bring that up. This is probably the most finished environment scene, so everything should eventually get to this quality. This was a hangar done by Alex. This is an environment later on in the film. And this is a grandma's apartment. So you can see that it's starting to get a little bit messy. Got the stove there. Basically, she's living in a Victorian era government building in a secret city, kind of a Chernobyl-like city. And she's kind of brought in all these parts into this one room where she's actually living. So it needs to be a haphazard collection of random things she's done. And then trying to find ways to create cartoon explosions, anime style. And here's kind of the one model that I've actually been working on for quite a while, is her modified motorcycle that she drives. This was a purchased model. So this model was actually purchased, and then I've spent time texturing and kind of co-opting it. And then to actually have an inside shot, because there's several shots inside, I've had to model the actual inside elements. So this is only a half of a helicopter because it doesn't need to be a full going to be used for interiors. And then this is a purchased car that I've modified to. Part of my goal with the film was to be as realistic as possible, so this is definitely a luxury Russian vehicle, and just the time involved to model something like that, it's just better to actually spend a little money and support an artist that's already modeled it. So. And kind of the same thing with guns. They can take a long time and pretty stock what I need. I did model the grenade off of Andrew Price's grenade. This was kind of fun, just doing the bullets in this object that connects all the artillery together. And then I did do the model on the pistol, which I'm not super happy with, but it's good enough to. This is the government building where Grandma hangs out, and it's in progress modeling. And then I have to create basically this. A lot of the models need to be really low poly. Just textured really quick, and that's kind of what this is, an example. This is probably the one shot that it's kind of helped establish the style. And I had done it one way, which I'll show in a little bit, but just wasn't happy with it, and so reworked that with a little bit updated knowledge in CG. And then I'll just play really quickly here. I have a full animatic, but I do have voices cast for this already. And so I wanted to kind of play animatic with sound. Just to kind of give you a sense of the actors that are actually playing the characters and how that's come together. This opening, though, is my old style, which was definitely much less.
You can see it on the
Yep.
What happened with the projector?
Best feature ever.
Are we streaming it right now?
Yeah, it's showing.
Okay, it's streaming.
It's not showing up here, and I don't know why.
I was about to say that's really low quality.
Yeah. Well, it's streaming to the world, so we just can't see it on our screen right now.
Your habit with women is getting expensive. Soon you'll be paying me more for snacks than you do for those fancy European smokes.
So this is not completely finished with lip sync.
Pay for them, frankly, is none of your business. You get your money, right?
Your money? This country is crumbling under the weight of a worthless ruble. And you talk money.
So that was like a voice bunny actor for the Colonel guy. The other actor is a local actor that is on some of the radio stations and stuff. I'll skip ahead to kind of the...
Do you ever need with all this meat?
This is an animatic. If you haven't seen an animatic.
Stench. It's meat. Bait? Bait?
So he basically turns into a werewolf character.
Be easy with your yawn tricks. I'll give you credit, it was clever. A clever trick from a clever girl.
So I don't want to play the whole thing, but Andrew Harris is the voice of Major Volk. He's a local theater actor and been in a couple indie movies. Laura Faye Smith has been in commercials. She was actually in one of the episodes of Grimm, I think. So you kind of able to, because a lot of people, they're trying to build up their portfolios with voice acting, and so that's kind of where she's good at. But that pretty much wraps up kind of Little Red Cap, the status. I'm trying to push back into production now that I have kind of some momentum on the modeling and the 2D part. It's just been really challenging when you have 6 years and you've gotten better since when you started the project of trying to match back and not have to redo all your work. But,
You want to make a prediction on when we're going to present the final product at the Northwest Animation Convention?
I'm not gonna. I'm done predicting. I had a film. I noticed I had a coming 11, 11, 11, and then it was 12, 12, 12, and it's like next year, and now it's 2016. Thanks for everybody that's helped on it.
Thank you.
Sure. I was actually gonna shut it down.
Well, we can screw around and get the other file download or like screen.
Yeah, sure.
One screen and then.
Yeah, that works too. Let's do that.
We'll stop sharing the screen
you'll be
for
able
now.
to get your files while I'm presenting one thing, and then we can present the other thing. The project files.
You got a thumb drive
I can
right
show
here.
your video, and then we can just talk about that for a little
Well,
bit.
I just wanted to think. I don't know if I remember my password.
Oh yeah, because I made those passwords kind of hard to remember.
You did.
Yeah. All right. Now let's talk. It's cool. Just talk for a little
I
bit.
want to see the files. I mean,
I'm wondering why we can't present on the screen.
Oh, maybe the projector's just off.
Well, no, it's doing the camera right now.
So the internet can see me. Hi, internet.
Yeah, the internet can see you.
Hello, internet people.
So go ahead and plug it in.
All right, let's plug in. I'm going to plug in my flash drive here, my portable USB drive. Actually, someone else's portable USB drive. Thank you for that. Yeah, very helpful. Let's see.
Yeah, and actually,
Okay,
probably should introduce ourselves too.
Let's continue now.
Hi, I'm Andy.
This is Andy.
This is Sam.
My name's Sam. Andy and I met at one of these meetings, and I needed some animators, and Andy was like, "I'm an animator," and I was like, "Cool." So we together with a couple other animators from around the world, we did some stuff for my producer in LA named Chris Weil. This is for a client called Cotman. They are a chain of auto garages. And we're going to give you guys just a sneak peek at the animations we've been doing for them. So, can I show mine first?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to show mine first. Let's see. How do
Project lead.
I show my? Yeah, I was the art director. This is my first opportunity to be an art director, which was really fun.
You want to show the screen?
Yeah, I want to show the screen so that you can see.
Share screen.
Stop looking at my face.
Desktop. Yes.
Look at my desktop instead. Okay. That was the way to be on our screen. So, yeah, here's to give you a backstory. Cotman needed some call to action videos about, like, look, we're an auto garage. Here's some bad things that can happen with your car, but bring it in to us. We'll make your car better. So, so that's our call to action there. And
chances are you've never heard of replacing your car's brake fluid, but it's a real service that can save you money and keep you safe, especially in today's.
So you made money with this, right? You're a pro.
That's because brake fluid absorbs moisture, which can lead to
Professional
susceptible
stuff.
freezing, boiling, or component rusting,
look how
all of
professional
which
that
can
is.
lead to serious brake problems. The solution is simple: replace the brake fluid. The procedure is simple. The technician simply connects a pressure bleeder to the brake system. Then he opens the brake bleeders one at a time to bleed the old fluid out until it flows clean. Once all the bleeders have been flushed, the brake fluid is new. That's all there is to it. Your local Cotman Transmission and Total Auto Care Center can replace your car's brake fluid and perform many other auto maintenance services. Till next time.
All right, so that's what we worked on. So that was the first animation out of a set of 8, and Andy did 2 others. So I'm going to show those as well. Here's what Andy did with coolant.
But one way to help avoid problems is with a complete cooling system service, including draining all the old coolant and
I'm going to rewind that so you guys
can
can see the smoke simulation. Look at that.
Cooling system.
All right, yeah.
But one way to help avoid problems is with a
You
complete
have 5
cooling
minutes
system
to go
service,
smoke signal.
including
Yeah,
draining
5
all
minutes,
the
that's
coolant
good.
and refilling
That's
the
good though. That's
system.
good. Exactly what
Here's
we
how
needed.
it works. First, the technician checks the system for leaks or damage, and he checks the hoses and belts to make sure they're in good condition. Next, he drains all the old coolant and disposes of it properly. Then he refills the system with a proper mix of coolant and water. Finally, he runs the engine and checks to make sure the fans and thermostat
Sorry, I
are
can't
operating
get the
properly
screen to
and there are
work
no
right now. I
leaks.
don't know why it
That
went
simple
down.
service will help keep your car's cooling system in good condition. Your local Cotman Transmission and Total Auto Care Center can service your car's cooling system and perform many other auto maintenance services. Till next time.
One more. This is the last one Andy did.
Your
There were
tires
8
are a
animations
critical
here,
part of your
so
car's
you know,
safety and
can't-
dependability. And
we-
one of the
we had
best
a-
ways to make sure you get the
we had
most
to
out
have
of
a
those tires
first time
is
I
with an
was
annual
working with
tire
like the whole
rotation and
team
wear
on
check.
this project.
You'll
So
get
that's-
more out of your tires because a rotation allows them to wear more evenly, so they're likely to last longer. And a wear check lets the technician make sure your tires are wearing evenly and are safe for use. This is also the best time for the technician to check tire pressure and look for any other potential problems before they lead to a dangerous failure on the road. Your local Cotman Transmission and Total Auto Care Center can check and rotate your tires and perform many other auto maintenance services. Till next time.
These videos technically aren't being rolled out till next month, so like nobody published this. But anyway, I'm going to put the first one on so we can talk about it a little bit. So this is a challenging project, first of all, because I'm working with a bunch of different animators, but we've got to have a cohesive style and a cohesive animation style. So all of the animations have to look like they're part of the same series, but at the same time, every animator needs to own their animation. So every animator has to be able to do the whole thing from start to finish. So there's a lot of pre-production that goes into this. With like, okay, I gotta first we start out with just making the character, rendering out this outro scene, which is the same for every animation. So we have those things to and we provide those to the animators, and then they have that to work with, along with the same background, the same scene into which they can place the specific title of their animation, and then it all comes together, and we're able to, with the help of SVN and linked libraries, we're able to have every animator own their animation, while at the same time having a common style and using common assets as well. Talk a little bit about this car too. I remember Nate just mentioned having to download or purchase a car model, and actually that was our initial plan for this as well. But it turns out that we needed this car to have all of its parts sort of in there so that we could open up the car and look at them. It also needed to be not too realistic. We can't have it look like any specific auto company's car. We can't make it look like a Honda, and we also don't want it to look like a sports car either, because this is where you take in your regular car, not your sports car. So the thing about a lot of stock 3D models online is that it's usually the Batmobile. You've got the Batmobile, or you've got like the car from The Simpsons, that one episode. There's no in between. You've either got like a Lamborghini model, or you've got like the dumbest looking cartoon car, and you've got like a Fred Flintstone car, and there's no. It was really, really hard to find like a car that worked. Like there was no such vehicle was available. So I modeled this car, and the idea is to just make the most generic looking sedan that you can imagine. And with that in mind, you can people will see that car and kind of like, it's a blank slate. They'll project their own car onto that car, kind of like a stick figure for people. And they'll say, okay, well, my car is bad like that car, so I'm going to take my car and have it looked at as well. So yeah, this round has actually gone really smoothly. We worked out a lot of kinks from the last round. Things having to do with Dropbox. We stopped using Dropbox. We dropped Dropbox. It's gone. Now we're using SVN. And this is really boring stuff, but for like project management, A lot of people are using Dropbox, and just don't do that. Use SVN instead, because it's so much better, and it gives you so much more control over what gets uploaded and committed, and then what changes stay local on your system. GitHub was another one. That's another one that we could have used.
But GitHub is I do web development. And GitHub it's really good, but it's also compared to SVN kind of complicated. It's great for people who are especially familiar with coding, and if you have to get into like a command line situation. But for most people, it's sort of like that's like the SVN that we were using. Is that it had a really nice GUI that you could just really do this upload, click upload. If you remember to click it twice, which we had a problem with.
You gotta
my first part.
add then commit. Yeah.
You add it to and then you commit it. And I think you're working with, you don't know the tech savviness of the team. Going simple is better.
Even SVN is like hard for a lot of animators to figure out. So I think that's sort of like, because I mean, they're all, there's a lot of animators, a lot of 3D artists that they're only interested in the artistic aspects of what they're doing, and they're less inclined to learn what a diff is, or what I don't know, committing. Well, what are some other SVN?
Even me, just like I'm pretty tech savvy, and this is just being the new something. Remember the second animation round, I had gone on and I added it to my SVN. And then like 3 days go by, and Sam's normally really good about getting back in the day. And I'm like, about hey, just want to some feedback on the animation I just sent you. And he's like, what animation? And I was like, what do you mean? And I didn't commit it, so it wasn't there. And so all of a sudden I'm like 2 days late instead of being like on top of things like I thought it was. So there's even for people,
So Dropbox would have solved that problem, but it also would have created like 7 other problems where someone renders something. And then it just automatically uploads like 2 gigabytes of stuff that nobody else needs.
Yeah.
Especially considering that if you do a Dropbox and you want to have like any kind of serious project, everybody else has got to get a Dropbox. Everyone's got to spend $10 a month or whatever it is, just to have their their little space when anyone can set up an SVN and have set up file sharing.
What's the cost of SVN?
Oh, whatever the cost of your hosting is. So I have hosting and through DreamHost, and that's maybe $120 something a year. But the advantage to that is I can set up as many SVNs as I want for as many people, and I don't have to make everyone else jump through the same hoops that I'm jumping through, which makes things for people on the animation side a lot easier. Because I hate to tell animators like, you have to spend $8 a month for me to hire you to work on this project. Like, that's not fair to people. So
it's okay. I asked for the $8 back.
We'll reimburse you, but still, it's annoying. So yeah, I think this was also my first opportunity to be an art director, which is a lot of fun because Andy makes an animation and he sends it to me and I go, well, that's bad, do it better, and then he makes it better, and then it's good. Actually, Andy's animations were pretty error-free for the most part.
Yeah,
you didn't have any notes for the last.
No, the last
client had no notes for you. They were like, good, awesome.
That's what I like to hear. But we did
all in one.
Because one thing about working individually, I think one thing that we corrected by the time we got around to the second video is we didn't talk as much about some of the characteristics of some of the animation we wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So my first, that smoke sim that we were talking about is great, but it also replaced like 6 seconds of character animation.
Yeah.
Because I had this idea that I really loved about making the car really kind of energetic and like living thing. And unfortunately,
like from Pixar.
Yeah, like Pixar's bouncing around, the hood's popping up when it's like saying hello. Because I thought like, oh, it'll be like cool and friendly and like really exaggerated. It's like, yeah, that's great, but it doesn't match anything else. And we had to kind of just take 6 seconds animation and just drop it. And it killed me because like these were, pretty tight turnarounds. We had 30 hours for these projects to
art direction, man.
To not only, for us, we had to generate some new assets. For this, you had most everything was there: the cars, the background, the outro.
We had the car. We had this nice outro at the end with the garage. So that's already done. So it's this trick of like, let's see how much stuff I can make before I give the animators their assignment, and then I'll make the animator's job as easy as possible, and then they'll have as much sort of as many common things as possible, so that when it's all done, even though they're different animators working on different projects, it all looks harmless. So yeah,
so
but I did make Andy like destroy the first 6 seconds of his animation, but
Which, it worked out all right because it needed time to be refined and it would need to be done anyways.
It's like my professor used to say, you got to eat your babies. I never fully understood what that meant, but
Did you keep any of those babies, or did you actually
you
destroy
keep some of the
them?
babies, but you eat other babies.
Well, I mean,
We ate that whole
can you
baby.
show
We
us
ate that
stuff
whole
that you
baby.
didn't put in the final project or final product?
The end final product is the baby that you don't eat.
Obviously, did
Yeah.
you save? Can you show us any of the stuff that didn't go into the final?
Oh, like the old, like earlier renders. Unfortunately, I don't have access to the whole SVN right now because I showed up and I don't know.
He ate it.
I ate that baby. Yeah.
Well,
that
it's
baby.
still alive.
Log
It's
on
still
your,
alive.
I mean, we could like switch the cameras so they can't see like your password, obviously.
We
Yeah.
might have a chance to
Because
show those
I don't
off
wanna-
at
I don't
one
wanna,
of our
like-
future meetings.
Yeah, I could probably do that if you gave me like 5 minutes. I could come back and show the project files and stuff. But like I don't want to make everyone wait around while like I enter in my SVN password.
No.
Yeah.
It's not-
Well,
That's boring.
Well,
But
we've got another presenter. We've got one more presenter at least. to
Okay,
do
cool.
Something in
how am I for time? Are we?
We're doing fantastic with time
Oh,
because
cool.
Red hasn't showed up yet,
Okay.
and
because I can really talk about kind of be on the animator side of things.
Yeah,
too,
sure.
so-
Here, let me show some of Andy's animations have glitches that are actually my fault because I rendered them, and then some of the frames that we got back were bad. Let me show this one because I think it's cool. Oh, I'm sorry.
Final render.
Oh yeah, final render is cycles. Yeah, which was I think worked out. What do you think? Worked out okay. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think. I mean, when you have to work with other render engines, you know, you got to make sure that all your material assets between all your different projects are linked up and work that way. And
I guess I meant
Oh yeah, compositing is all Blender.
oh
too.
yeah, not at all. Yeah, I mean, this is actually the first time. The first thing we did, the first project we did, I didn't realize we were using the sequence editor in Blender. And even though I was pretty familiar, like I could do smokes and release and all these other things, I did not know how to use the sequence editor, which is not a terribly difficult thing to use. But when you're like, you're about 20, I think it was like 28 hours into the project. Like I got 2 hours. Like I have to go with what I know right now. So I had to render out each individual frame and bring it into. I used Adobe Premiere just to do it, and just link them all up. The problem is that with the sequence editor, there are things that you have overlapping from different scenes that you can pull together. Like this little pop-up at the bottom is something that is its own scene that spans the entire length of the animation. And that's in its own scene within our Blender file. So you kind of animate that separately, and then you kind of edit these new scenes of the car and his mechanic. I always forget, which one's Franklin?
Franklin.
Is Franklin the mechanic or is that the car?
No, Franklin's the guy.
Okay,
The
Franklin.
guy is Franklin. We
Okay.
named the car Randall, but that's
Randall.
that's a working title.
Okay. Well, anyways, those are the file names you see when you're in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, we use Blender was everything. You have that blend file, and it's all one self-contained blend file too. So like if I were to show you my, animation file, but this one blend file that has all the transitions and everything, and then what's so great
but
about
it's still linked libraries though.
it's still linked libraries.
Yeah.
Yes. So like
So Franklin and the car, those are in a separate folder completely. So the animation file that you're working on, it's just your work exclusively. So you like own that file, and then you don't have to worry like if I go in and make changes to say Franklin's hair and like fix his hair a little bit, like that's transparent to you, and that'll show up in the next time you render this animation. Coincidentally, I do need to fix Franklin's hair in one shot, but that'll be, that'll work. And since he's linked into every other file, it doesn't affect the animator. So that's the beauty of linked libraries. But you are right that like,
yes,
when you render it out, like this, ideally, the video you're watching right here is what you see when you just hit render once, and it's all layered and composited. It's all, each scene is composited with Blender's nodes, and then and then the whole thing is in the sequencer. So this this lower thirds graphic here, that's another Blender scene that's overlaid onto this stuff. So yeah, it all works.
Yeah, and that's, for me, especially when you're working on a project like this, where we had to do some test renders of the animation so you can actually get a feel for it, rather than just I still want to call it a playback with my mind is the OpenGL render.
An OpenGL render.
OpenGL render. You kind of need something that's a little bit more. So it's really nice that you didn't have to be like, start a render for one scene, come back an hour later, start the next one, and build your files. You just click render and go to bed in the morning. It was done for a long time. So that's a really, for especially this style of project where we're moving really quick, we're cutting corners,
yeah,
but still trying to make it look as professional as possible. Like I talked about this, the water that's pouring out of this thing right now is.
Oh yeah, this is really funny.
Because so it's kind of hard to tell, but I really like fluid sims. I think when water pours, it has a very particular look to it, and I unfortunately don't have time to like fuss with a fluid sim to get it just right for a project that's moving this quick. And so what I did was I took a cylinder and I kind of warped it to look like it was kind of a nice bit of water. And I think that it actually has a lot more dimensionality than if you just applied like a bump map or something to it. When you actually have it, like it's physically in the shape. And then yeah, and it looks great. It looks like it's kind of pouring because what it is it's now being added onto a curve, and we're just moving that cylinder along the curve and twisting it at the same time to get that sort of pouring motion. And what's kind of funny about this, because there are better ways to set this up, but I didn't have enough time to do it right. If you could spin the file around.
I wish I could show you guys this file.
This is the one file that would be really funny to watch, because that cylinder is really, really long, and there's no place to hide it. So if you were to flip this scene like 90 degrees and see Franklin here, you would see
he's got like this weird
cylinder shooting like right out of his butt.
Yeah, it's coming out of his butt.
This is literally just being hidden behind him because I didn't have time to set it up in a better way. Because again, it's just one of these projects where it's like I have at most 15 minutes to half an hour to set up this little fluid sim, and I need to know it's going to work, and I don't have to worry about it, like
But yeah, it works.
But it works. Yeah, and I think the other one, the one right before this, where you see the old coolant pour, you can actually see a little closer up where it's like it looks, like a convincing.
And I like solutions like that too. Because I think a lot of times I'll notice like a shortcut that an animator has taken, and I'll go like, whoa, but this one is just like, you're only going to see it from this angle, and when I saw it, I just laughed. But it works, So a lot of times you've got to do like this magician, like sleight of hand thing.
Yeah. If it's not on camera, it doesn't matter. And there's plenty of scenes where like if you were to see like Franklin from the waist up, is moving over, but his feet are just like stuck to the ground. It doesn't matter. You're not seeing like his when he's fixing the car in the beginning part of it, he's taking off the radiator cap. Yeah. He's clipped into the car. It would make no sense from any other angle, but from the angle you see it, it looks great. So, and again, this one of those things where again, you gotta balance that. It needs to look professional because we want to give the client a really nice looking product. At the same time, it's like 30 hours to do 30 seconds of animation plus sequencing all together plus making new assets for it. It's a really tight deadline.
I should have mentioned that the challenge for the animators is that the turnaround time for these animations was pretty insane. It was basically like on Monday I was like, okay, Andy, you're doing this, and I need a draft by Friday, and it went and actually it was very ambitious, but we're pretty much on schedule to finish and deliver by the end of this month.
Was the client chomping at the bit?
Oh, the client is very eager to get these ASAP because they've actually got a conference starting in March that they want to impress everybody with. So so this getting that's the thing that you have to be able to work with the client. That a lot of times the client wants an animation. They don't care that it takes 50 hours to make the animation. They need it now. So so a lot of times we have to go a little crazy and see what we can do to just get these animations done as quickly as possible. So yeah, everyone's working with just insane turnaround times and really fast animation too. Like no more than for these videos, it's 30 work hours per video, which is very ambitious.
Yeah, because you're looking at almost less than an hour per second of animation. And if you listen to Pixar talk, they're talking, a day is maybe 2 seconds. That's a full 8-hour day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've used Sheepit. That's the other one. We used Sheepit for all of this, and Sheepit is awesome. If you haven't checked it out, it's really, really good. They're one of the few render farms that supports. It's a peer-to-peer render farm, so everyone joins in and donates their CPU time or their GPU time to render other people's projects. While you're rendering everyone else's project, you get credit to your account, and then that gives you priority to, when it comes time to render your projects. You can do that really, really quickly. So it's kind of like you're, donating your time, and then all of those credits go in like your bank, and then and when it's time to render, I think each of these videos took maybe 12 hours on Sheepit, but they would have took 4 days otherwise. So Sheepit is a really, really good solution.
How are you spelling it?
Sheepit, it's SHEEP-it. And yeah, they're really good, and they support cycles as well. They support linked libraries, which a lot of professional paid render farms actually don't support things like linked libraries or GPU rendering, which is sort of disappointing because if you're in a position as a professional to pay for rendering, you're going to be needing linked libraries. So it's kind of funny that like the best solution that we found was actually a free one, and I had already donated a bunch of my time. So yeah, it worked out really well.
Something different up there. Yeah, it worked out pretty well. Aside from a few of the little glitches that you would see.
Oh, that is the other thing, is that anytime you use Sheepit, someone is going to be rendering your project on their tiny little laptop, and they're going to send back just blank frames.
Yep.
And you can actually see little glitches here that I need to go back and manually re-render because it's kind of like if Santa Claus hired one retarded elf to do, so he just messed up the toys on the assembly line, and then Santa had to go and fix his work or whatever. It's like that. And I'm Santa Claus, and I have to fix the bad frames. But for the most part, it works.
Question: what was the output file you guys decided on? I mean, EXR or PNG?
Had to go with Ping. We had to go with Ping. Would have done EXR because there are some excellent tricks that you can do with OpenEXR, especially with cycles. You can change the seed and overlay them, and that would have been really cool to be able to do. But the files are just so big that Sheepit will not allow OpenEXR just because that's going to use up so much of the bandwidth that you have to use Pings. So that is one downside. So yeah, we went with Pings, which, I mean, for the most part, other than the fact that it's 8-bit color depth, I think it's a perfectly good file format. I mean, EXR would have been better, but not that much better.
I did have one really weird thing with the PNGs though, which is I think this is part of the fact that I haven't updated some of my older software. I still have CS6 for some of my old software. And I exported my PNG sequence for one of my things, and I put it into, I think it was maybe even After Effects, I can't remember, whatever I was editing it in. And it looked fine in the preview window, but when I went to actually export the video, it gave me an error. And this drove me nuts for a while, but it's actually, I guess Blender uses a really up-to-date version of the PNG file format, and actually older software now haven't updated those files, so they don't know how to do that final rendering process, even though it previews just fine and everything. And I even saw there was a bug that Blender put up about this. So you run into really weird things like that. So the format, gives you some advantages, but will blow up in your face others. So if you ever UCS6 and wonder why your PNG sequence is not working.
Yeah, there you go.
Here's
Don't ever render from After Effects.
If you can avoid it.
I landed the wrong different thing, but it was good time footage and sequence, and it would corrupt every 1,000th frame.
what
It would crash the render.
That's so funny.
So what ended up kind of sucking is I had, thousands of frames of this little, like this is my preview animation, not the finals. But I had to basically go into Photoshop, it's obviously using the same legacy, PMG format, and then do a batch render where I just resave it as the same format, and it worked at that point once you dumped it into a different format. So it's just like, sometimes you run into these weird problems, it's like completely invisible, and it's like, I always thought PNGs would be like much more infallible. And then well,
they should. It's not PNG's fault.
It is true. After Effects.
This is pre-render. This pre-render sequence here is actually not ping. This is JPEG 2000, because JPEG 2000, as it turns out, is an excellent format for lossy image sequence compression. It's more efficient than ping. It's a little bit lossy, but this was actually the best solution to compress the image sequence so that the scene or the Blender file that I want to send to the render farm can be sent along with the big huge file sequence, and it's still within the limit of for Sheepit to accept it and render out everything, including the pre-rendered sequence as well. So in certain cases, JPEG 2000, which is an incredible format, so it makes sense that no platform supports JPEG 2000 that I know of other than Blender. It's a really terrific format. So yeah, sometimes that's good.
So just kind of looking, just trying to wrap up. So kind of looking at the whole project, at least for me as an animator perspective, it actually went pretty smoothly, and I actually am really kind of excited to see Blender used in a commercial, kind of format, because I actually have a bunch of animator friends that work in the game industry and others, and Blender still has not been recognized there, and there are some genuine reasons for that. I probably will always take my opportunity to complain about the way the layer system works in Blender, which was really frustrating. The one frustrating part about this project was getting into especially the bone layers, where it's like you have to click on everything to try to figure out what the layer actually does, and then play around with it. That needs to be, you be able to name them, be able to pick someone a few times and say, look at Maya and do it the way they do it.
One of the few times when I will accept that.
Yeah, the layers needs help. I know what they're going for, but it doesn't really work. But all in all, I just love seeing the Blenders used in professional formats, and hopefully my animation was good enough to show you that it is really a capable software, and it's not just like my bad animation holding it down. So I'm excited.
I think at this point, it's sort of taken for granted that Blender is one of the industry standards. I think maybe
amongst
a couple years ago, nobody heard Blender, but now I feel like everyone's heard Blender.
I think once the generation kids who grew up, especially with the 2.5, redoing of the interface, and once they start hitting the market, you'll see a lot more people go, well, I just use Blender, let's just use the thing I know.
Yeah.
And Autodesk and even Adobe, all behind their paywalls, you see open source.
Yeah.
Really kind of take
anything lined up in the future.
Yeah.
Do you?
Huh? What?
Any projects lined up in the future?
The animator would like to know too.
I have no. Yeah, probably. Most likely. I'm just the art director, so I don't actually know all that stuff is happening behind closed doors in LA somewhere. Producers in LA.
Any questions for Sam and Andy? Good.
All right.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Safely eject. Eject. Wait, is this one or is this one?
Eject. I'm sure.
Wait a minute. No, it's I. It's I. There we go. All right.
Now they can bridge.
You got a sunburn or something?
Oh, didn't you say you had my?
Yes, I have your profile.
Oh, hey, Brad, what's up?
You have
Something's wonky here. Windows Explorer is crashing.
You're next. Actually, close.
I think that's what it's doing.
Yeah, I'm wondering. It sometimes takes over.
We still. Wow.
Yeah, that was it.
Technical difficulties on to the world. We're setting up for the next presentation.
Something know more about this. Stop sharing.
I don't know why.
I think that's me at the end there. There we go.
Okay, so present that. Really
Scared of where
Nah.
Yeah. All right. Hi.
Introducing Colin Freeman.
Hello, Blender PDX and Blender Meetups of the world. My apologies, I was not expecting to do a worldwide presentation today, so bear with me.
You've seen the presentation I made, so don't worry about it.
I guess it couldn't get any worse than that.
No, it can't get worse than mine.
But I do have to follow Andy and Sam, who did an amazing presentation. So
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So.
Humble over here.
So my name's Colin again, and my brand is Colin's Workshop. I am not an animator. I'm sorry, it's not going to be cool character stuff. I'm actually a graphic designer, and I'm a product photographer. I've been doing it for about 15 years. And and about 4 or 5 years ago, a friend introduced me to Blender. I was like, this is kind of cool. Maybe I can do like a logo or two with this. And once cycles came out and started becoming more robust, I was like, you know what? I bet I could solve a lot of the problems I have with my product photography by using Blender instead of actually shooting the products. Because in a lot of cases, I'll just bring up an example really quick. I've been shooting products on a plain white background. It takes about an hour to set up all the lights and the staging and stuff, and also about an hour to break down after you're done shooting. And clients don't want to pay a whole lot of money for this kind of stuff because it's just a plain white background shot. But with Blender, I could set this up, model a simple product, shoot it, and then this particular product, these burrito companies, they have dozens and dozens of the same packaging design, and they have different flavors of burritos, and they want the same lighting setup exactly. And trying to remember how to do that, once every 6 months to get all the positioning correct for the same reflections and things like that, was a real hassle. Blender, open it up, your lighting's already there. All you gotta do is remap it to a new packaging, and there you go. Some other things that are very advantageous about using the 3D solution is that if you were to photograph a product that's printed like this close up, it looks like garbage because it's printed at 300 dpi, and that looks fine when you're just looking at it on a shelf or just kind of passing by. But when you're looking at it through a microscope, like a photograph like this, you can see all the screens. And so with Blender, I actually produce all my artwork at 600 dpi. And I can get in there super close. I can get textures and things that would look really bad if you did it with actual photography, and instead get some really good close-up shots. So Tina's Burritos, again, I know these are just simple things. It's a bag. It's basically a box with some flat ends. It's not a very complex model. The thing you have to think about is, again, people are looking at through a microscope, especially clients who are paying you. So it has to be looking like the best freaking bag possible. And Blender really allows me to do that. You don't have to worry about like folded up corners and other things. So a lot of times people will ship me these products. When you pull them out of the bag, there's dust, there's scratches, the corners get folded over, and it's like, I gotta fix this. So the models are perfect every time. It saves me a lot of time and makes my business a lot more lucrative. So I'll show you some cooler stuff on my products. AFX Racing, they produce these slot car sets, and they needed a kind of a glamour shot for their product.
a lot of times I don't do the graphic design for the packaging itself. Another studio sends it to me, and I just do the rendering. I kind of like it that way. I don't like having to worry about barcodes and all the little fine text and stuff. I just want to make a cool looking image. So that's what I did here. Did not use the smoke simulator for this because I'm not as good at using smoke simulator as some of the other people here. I just kind of faked.
I got to introduce Mabah to you and Andy and he's Mabah. You've done all these kinds of physics, the liquid physics which they probably could have used you on, and smoke. You've done some smoke and fire, haven't you? I like to call you Action Jackson in my own mind because you got all that. You do all the physics and stuff. So we've got some talent if you want to look for some.
Yeah. If it came down to doing animation, I know that'd be really advantageous to have a good grasp of the physics and simulations, and I've used them at times. But when you're just creating a one-off shot, you just want to get it quickly done and as good looking as possible. And the smoke simulator is frustrating for me, as it is for a lot of people. So this was just a plane that I displaced and put a texture on it. And a lot of this, I render out into several PNG layers when I send it out to rendering, and recompose it in Photoshop so I can get in there and airbrush some stuff. And a lot of my clients are wineries and breweries. Again, you make one beer bottle, they all mostly look the same, and that's nice because I don't have to spend a lot of time remodeling a new product every single time. You switch out the label, come up with a different scene for it. This one I was really happy with because I got to play with some particle simulation to throw little water droplets on there. And a lot of times I'm only modeling what's in the foreground here. What you see in the background, just a stock photo. I'm not going to spend hours modeling.
How do you like the bokeh effect? Because I know the background is foreground. Now, how do you translate that into Blender or something?
I'm sorry, what effect?
The bokeh effect here, I see here.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I was asking you. I was wanting to ask you how you do the blur on the. Was that the photo was blurred?
The photo in this case did have a slight amount of blur. I do have some other examples where the photo wasn't blurred. I just used the regular camera, camera focus setting. I usually create a null object, and I put that null object right on my, my front and forward product, and then just tweak the settings until I get the amount of blur that I want. One thing I don't like is it doesn't get the nice circular bokeh as easily as a camera does.
You can open blur in composite nodes.
Yeah.
That.
Messing with that helps a lot.
Now, what was your question specifically on that?
No, I just want to know how I did it.
Because I'm always curious about the bokeh. I've read about it, but I haven't done any tutorials or anything on there, so I was curious myself.
Yeah. But in this case, I just grab a stock photo because I'm not going to model a whole bar scene in the background, and all you're going to see is some blurry shapes. So in this case, I kind of cheated there. This one that I did recently, that was a challenge because I had to create this crushed ice effect that is a whole lot of particles. And what I found is when you have that many particles that have transparent glass surfaces, it doesn't matter how much you crank up those bounces on the rendering panel, it looks black. You can't get the light to come through it. So in this case, I just create a very thin layer of ice. There's nothing really beneath that. And I cheated by adding a little bit of an emission to this material for the ice. It's like, well, I know that's not what you're supposed to do, but I'm just going
to the ice itself.
To the ice itself, through a tiny little bit of emission in there, and it created this light reflection kind of effect, which pulls it off good.
When I made a diamond, I wanted it to glow, and I just put a point light inside it. I didn't think to make the diamond itself an emitter.
Yeah, that can work with very clean, cuts on a diamond that has very clean facets. In this case, I'm dealing with this particle that has so many roughened edges that the light couldn't pass through it correctly if I didn't do that. Again, this is a super close-up of a product that's only about 2 or 3 inches tall. And if you were to take that photograph, you wouldn't be able to see the texturing and the label very well, and everything would look kind of fuzzy. So Blender created a solution where I could create a really nice looking image for my client without having to do a lot of Photoshop work afterwards. Again, these products, when you get them, they're only about an inch tall, and I have to make a poster that's going to be about 20 by 30. So Blender really helped me out here. Again, this is one of my biggest clients. I don't use this stuff, and I don't condone it. Maybe some people, I guess it's better than smoking, but yeah. But they're a fun company to work for because they always kind of challenge me to create cool backgrounds and stuff. They're a bit of perfectionists, which is annoying, but at the same time, it's good to have somebody to really push you sometimes to do things that.
What have they criticized you on?
Oh.
Is it not in these final photos that you're showing us?
Oh, they're great because they'll say, "Can you make it look 10% more realistic?" It's like, oh, screw you.
They don't give anything more specific than that?
Yeah, they don't give any more specific.
The wood texture in this one right here is fantastic. All the different wood textures I've seen on Blender.
Yeah, you know what that is? That's Architecture Academy.
Is it?
I spend all that money on the Architecture Academy. The thing I use most is the textures. There's all this texture analysis grab those. But you know, a lot of times, you know, in this case, I actually modeled all this stuff. Sometimes I will buy stock models for things that go in the background. But you know, I thought, well, do I really want to spend $25 to buy a compass off TurboSquid or something, or just make it really quick? Because sometimes it's kind of a gamble what you want to do, but it's not like I pay for them. I just charge it to the client. So it's like, do I want to spend their money on it or not? Again, an example of that background smoke kind of effect. I do a lot of the nutraceutical products is what they call these, basically supplements, skincare products. Again, more skincare products. So this is a pain reliever. Yeah, rub it where it hurts. I won't ask where it hurts, all right? You just put it right there. This one I kind of, this one is a bit of a, well, all of it is Photoshop and Blender, but this one is just a lot of compositing in Photoshop. I try to use, you know, the compositor in Blender where I can, but a lot of times it's frustrating than not to use the compositor in Blender. So this one was kind of fun. You know, again, this is just a stock photo background that was really clear, and I put it up as just a plane behind everything else. I kind of find that putting it up as a plane in the background and adding an emission, rather than just throwing it in Photoshop later, I can use some of that light from that background photo to influence the foreground a little bit, and it also helps it to match it up later on. Yeah. And little just on white stuff. We already saw that. A little logo design for one of my friends' bands that I didn't get paid for, but when they're your friends, then they're broke. And it's like, all right, I'll just make that earlier. I hate modeling text. It's like, you know, you create the text in Blender, but you got to extrude it and then break it apart, and you end up with a horrible amount of polygons. It's better. I have to go through and model like every little facet of this egg. And this is one of my favorites. My neighbor has a carpet cleaning business, and it's called Carpet MD. So he's like, you make this caduceus, but with a carpet wand. And you know, it's kind of like, it's a little ridiculous, but sure, I'll do it. And now he's going to get this printed out and stuck on the side of his van.
Some people might not catch the fact that it's a carpet wand.
Yeah, I wasn't asking too many questions. I was like, all right, you're my neighbor, and I'm gonna have to, you know, see you every day. So I'll just, you know, do your project and smile about it.
He said that was good. The final.
He loved it. He loved it. Yeah. Compared to what they had before, that's 500% improvement. Wineries, big client, and like I said before, it's really helpful to use Blender because wineries change their labels every single year. They come up with a new varietals. They come up with a new release, and you got to match that lighting from one year to the next. And so with Blender, just, you know, pop the file open from last year, change the label out, send it off. You're good to go, and no more spending, you know, hours setting photography. Every once in a while, you get to do a little fancy shot. I think in this one, I probably did buy these grapes because I just didn't want to spend hours placing every single little grape and texturing it.
So you're going to try out a new prices professional lighting, or you
You know,
Yeah.
considering that about 75% of what I do isn't modeling, it's actually lighting stuff. I've given it some consideration, but I've put so much time into already building the lighting setups that I use that I'm like, I'll probably buy it. I don't know if I'm gonna jump on the bandwagon right away, but for most of my stuff, I have the setups I like. I know how they work. But I was, looking into that the other day. They only released it like 2 or 3 days ago.
Oh, no, they released pro lighting a while back. You just didn't
Well,
release
the skies.
Oh,
like,
the skies. Okay.
the studio.
He came out with something, a new addendum to it.
Right, they
Yeah.
have the studio. It's actually.
Does anybody have pro lighting? Okay, nobody. I have Grass Essentials from Blender Guru. You said you had Academy, and Rhett has Academy. Anytime anybody gets any of this stuff, promo it and show it off here at one of our meetings. I know there'd be several people in addition to me wanting to see it in operation. So anyway, go back to your presentation.
All right. Well, I might be purchasing it. It is tempting because it does apply directly to the kind of stuff I do. So, this is an instance where I actually did model the background and used a lot of Architecture Academy models to just throw them back there because I wanted to, it was hard to find a scene exactly what I was looking for, a little winery with some wine glasses hanging in the background and such. So this is a little more in-depth project, and plus I got to justify charging a bit more. And more stock photos, stock pine cones. Wasn't gonna model those. And there's lots more, but this is an example of like how sometimes I have to get a lot more detail than you would if you were just gonna have this bottle of wine as a straight up shot. They wanted a laying down shot, and the bottom of that wine bottle has all these little kind of gripper feet on it, so I have to work on.
And you said that they still send you sample products and you put that into Blender?
That's kind of the, in some cases I do get sample bottles of stuff. Usually they're empty for the makeup containers and stuff. That's one disadvantage with the beer and alcohol stuff is they used to send it to me and just be like, keep it. And now they're like, you don't need it anymore. It's like more free booze. So I kind of kick myself. I have to throw one of those up there in my portfolio because sometimes clients, they don't understand what I'm doing when I say it's a virtual photograph. I'm like, okay, look, it's a 3D model and it looks.
They think it's a real photo.
Yeah, so this helps to just illustrate the point to them. And here's the last one. This is one I actually got to play a little bit with a simulation where I dropped the bottle onto a sheet of fractured rock and had it just kind of naturally fall apart because I didn't want to spend all the time placing all those rocks. So I figured if I just drop the bottle on there with the simulation, the hard body simulations, it would just kind of naturally move the stones around.
Except the gravity.
Right. So that was a little fun project. Anyway, that's what I do, and thanks for your time. And,
Any questions for college?
What kind of money is involved when they pay you?
Typically, I charge by the hour, about $50 an hour to do this kind of stuff. And depending, I always have to kind of guesstimate what the quote's going to be. A lot of these, fancy kind of setups can range anywhere from like $250 to $500 per shot. But they usually get a couple different angles out of setting up this. Someone else have a question?
Yeah. Is there a question back there?
No? Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the lighting setup for, you had one wine bottle that was really, really dramatic. It's what your cursor's on right now.
Okay.
Can you talk about just that lighting setup? Because that hard line down the middle of the bottle is like really striking. It's like,
right.
That ball's
okay. So in this situation, everything I create like a sweep, where it's just a curved background, it's plain white. And to get those types of reflections in wine bottles, extremely difficult to do also with photography. So again, Blender is helpful here. In this case, a lot of times I'll just throw up an area light and just kind of make it a big square. Now that area lights actually work in cycles, when I first started, but they didn't work very well at all. And then just trying to get that angle to where it looks good. But in this case, I needed to put a texture on the light because I wanted that gradient. It's really sharp on one side and then fading off. So what I create is like a virtual softbox where it's just a big square. One side has an emission panel on it, and the back side is just a diffuse black to prevent any kind of loose lighting from getting around. And then just texture the front really quick with a gradient, really simple, just black to white. And that's nice because you can just use the influence of that gradient, as a factor. So you don't have to use that color. You can just change the color if you want to influence a little bit differently.
Do you use any Photoshop or GIMP or anything like that?
I use Photoshop for everything. A lot of times I render, I think I explained a little bit earlier, I'll render these all on separate PNG layers in the compositor. I'll put all my layers to different file outputs, and when I send it out to the render farm, it comes back all layered. And use Photoshop to individually adjust backgrounds and foregrounds. Typically in a wine bottle setup, there's a few different setups that work. One is you always have your product kind of in the middle right here, and then you'll have a light on one side and another side to create kind of those vertical stripes. That's the popular look. And sometimes they'll just do like an offset. We just kind of rotate it so you only have one light right in front, and the other one comes more from the side, so you get that edge lighting. And other than that, for wine bottles, there's not a whole lot of other looks that people are looking for, very basic on white shots. If you're talking more of the lifestyle shots, really popular right now is where you just have like one big like window light off to one side, and it's broadcasting from one direction, usually partially from the side, kind of that Rembrandt lighting. And I just say, don't touch ambient occlusion at all. It's the worst possible thing you can do for a realistic render. Maybe like 5% at the most.
Do you say that your knowledge or experience from photography carried over directly into
100%.
Nice.
If I hadn't taken photography classes in studio, I would be nowhere near where I'm at now. It translates directly everything you learn. I mean, when I set these things up, my mind is thinking, okay, I'm building a virtual photography set. It's almost exactly the same. The way you create the curved background, you normally do that with a huge piece of paper. Here you're just doing it with a plane, you're curving it. And the fun part is you get to mess with it so much more here. Like, I'll make that curve, and for white wine bottles, if you just have like a black, environment, you start getting ugly black stripes outside. Well, I can take my plane, the background sweep, and pull out the sides and then pull them forward to make more like a big box around it. So the way you can play with the reflections is so much easier and has so many more opportunities than you can with regular photography. And sometimes it's really hard because I'll get some projects and I'm like, should I do this in regular, traditional, or should I do it in the Blender? It's like, I could probably get it done a little bit faster if I just stick this out in the backyard and shoot it, but there's so many more things I can do. So, yes.
One question. It's just you use obviously glass a lot for all your renders. Do you do anything special with cycles? This basic glass renderer to get a more realistic look, or do you just use it out of the box?
Most of the time I just go with the straight out of the box glass, make sure that it's completely clear. For colors, I use the volume absorption. Never add color to the glass. It always comes out looking really funky when you do that, especially with white wine bottles where you have that little bell curve in the bottom. If you try to add color to the glass, it just it multiplies the density and it looks completely wrong. Like it looks way too dark. The bottom of these bottles should look like a little bit lighter. Let me see if it looks like it in this case. You can't see it so well. But these areas down near the bottom of the bottle, I mean, that color should be a lot more faded than it is up here. And if you add colors to the glass, it doesn't do that. It actually makes it look more dense. As opposed to use volume absorption, it has a more natural look.
So the glass shaders that you're using, they're totally white, and then to add color, you just throw in some volumetric.
Yeah, so I use a volume absorption node into the volume input on a component node.
Yeah.
And usually you don't even have to add too much. You just add a slight amount of color, and that's enough to get a good look out of it. And any more than that, it's going to look hope you want to look transparent.
We've tried doing some workshops in our meetings before, and they don't really fly. That's not really a classroom kind of session. But I'm wondering if maybe you did a presentation on the inner workings of one of your subjects.
Sure.
For one of our meetings, I think would be just fantastic.
Okay. Yeah. Next time I'll bring some files.
Because all the questions they're asking, I've got those questions too. I'd like to see it. See you do it in Blender.
Yeah, absolutely.
So prove that you did it in Blender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we have one more question?
No?
Yes?
You have that very backlit dark wine bottle,
Okay.
and I wanted to ask you how you lit that.
Which one are we talking about here?
It's a single bottle and somewhat of bright edge.
Oh, this right here, I think.
Right here?
That one?
No.
Can you come over to one of the screens and see all of the options? Yeah.
Can we move that window? Yeah. It might be this wine holiday promo, or it could be the cab. Can't really tell.
Here, I'll open up this one first. So,
Yeah, this has got. Does everybody see what I'm talking about? They've got very crisp, thin edges.
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
That's those hard area lights.
Yeah. So, yeah, in this case, area lights.
So it's just a big rectangle.
Right. So with the area lights, the trick is, when you first add an area light, they're usually so small you can't even see the square. So you got to go in there and crank it up to like size 10 or something. And usually from there, I'll just transform them, like make them really skinny or tall. That's the other great thing about this is you can make a 10-foot tall, 5-inch wide light and get a really thin pinstripe that you can't get from having this regular softbox.
I thought that's how you were doing the stripe on.
Yeah. One thing that's great about this too is, okay, if you look at the bottom of the bottle here, you notice the stripe goes all the way down.
And curves.
It should be reflecting the countertop right here, and that should be interfering with it. But in layers, I can just say, hey, exclude that countertop layer from the rendering. And what that'll do is it allows me to play more with the lighting and get effects that normally I'd have to go back and Photoshop and do. But since the bottle is just ignoring the countertop in that particular instance, the light goes much further down than the countertop does, and I get that nice wraparound all the way to the bottom of the bottle.
I like the way the tabletop's reflected.
That was. I might have. Let's see. You said you have a USB. I might have this file.
Do we have both of them on?
Hey, Colin, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Somebody getting some.
I don't know. There's one more here.
Yeah. Hey, Colin, this is Sterling. Just if you can hear me, there's like a little circle in the middle of that wine glass. I'm wondering if you're reflecting something there. Oh, is it in here? Yeah, exactly. I'm curious.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Is it somebody?
I thought you might have inserted yourself into the image or something.
Sometimes that's what I should start doing, putting little secret messages in there.
Put your signature in there somewhere.
A lot of times I'll use environmental maps that have artifacts in them with these, so that way the background doesn't look. I've got a lot of weird stuff kind of going in the bottles here that, I'll just, pick an area map to throw around, and that kind of helps to. Somebody help me! I'm not a Windows guy.
What do you need?
To get to my disk.
Oh, okay.
I got a bunch of environment maps from Video Copilot. I bought one of their 3D things. And again, I don't use their 3D too much in After Effects, but their environment maps were really good. So
Which one?
did put it in there. Can you see the name of it? If you click on that, what they call it, it checks USB disk. Or bug.
That's this one.
No,
So it's not even registering.
it's not reading. It doesn't like my Mac stuff.
Oh, is it Mac?
Your thumb drive is formatted Mac.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'll throw some files on my Google Drive next time before I come out here and demonstrate.
All right, well, that means an invitation to the world to join us on our next meetings when Colin Freeman shows up to show us some more stuff.
All right.
So anything else? Any last words? Any last questions we missed?
One question. You said you use textures to be environmental area lights or something.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever play around with, say, using HDR? Because I know there's some guy who does something like this, but all those sexy cars and everything.
Yeah.
He uses like all HDR.
Yeah, sometimes I will. The thing I find though is a lot of times the HDRs are just so overwhelming with the file sizes that it really slows down my rendering and my previews. And so I'm like, does it really make that much of a difference to use a JPEG or an HDR for your background lighting in some cases? And a lot of times for me it doesn't, because it's just a background element. It's, again, like I'm not going to put more effort into it than I need to, because I just want to get my job done. All right.
All right.
Cool.
Thank
very
you,
much,
Colin
guys.
Freeman.
We have another presentation coming up. It's Rhett. Do you have a jack? I can stick it in there.
It's hard because sometimes that's what I use.
Do I get a preview of what's on the screen?
Over here.
And have to look all the way over.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. Well, I don't know why we lost the instructor screen. Because it's not.
And that's on Google Drive, that's what we're seeing. Okay. I think I'm ready to go.
Go for it. You're on.
My name's Brett, and I was trying to figure out yesterday what I was going to bring in, just trying to remember what I did in the last year. And what I came up with was this was not a year of animation or art production or anything. I was really just exploring things that happened in Blender.
Maybe I could give an intro for Rhett. Rhett's he designed a Python add-on, the polygon hair direction or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Get your hair to fall in. He composited all our artworks for the Art Institute plasma screen ad that we did. He came up with the monthly theme idea that we're running with every month since October last year. Welcome, Rhett.
October of last year sounds so far away.
It was.
It's been going on for so long.
It has.
Anyway, this is something that you saw earlier when Nate was presenting. It was a quick Soviet era record player. It was a simple modeling project that was fun to work on. Another short project was, this was like a 4-hour project. I just built it, made everything from scratch except for the floor texture. Everything else was a picture I had or something that I built, and I rigged the treads on this little garbage bot.
Everything away.
Yeah, and that was the idea. It was, he clearly had a job, and he came in through the door and left a trail of dirt, started wrecking things, and just started chucking stuff.
Put on the floor.
That was a particle system. It was basically, I made grass, but instead of having grass blades pop out, it was just little dark chunks of mesh.
Dollar store wall.
Yeah, dollar store wall. And this was an exploration I started doing. I wanted to really just focus on working in cycles and getting used to things. What I could do with area lights, what I could do with environmental light and things like that. So I just made a tiled bathroom, half of which is actual geometry tile and the other half is just textured tiles. And I had a character that I was going to drop in here, and I just got really mad with how I chose to make this character, and I eventually gave up on it. This was it was like a robotic character that had armored panels all over, and rather than just texture in the space in between, I tried to make geometry out of it. And I got really frustrated trying to get it to cooperate. That's the kind of artwork that I worked on this year. I was thinking as Colin was starting talking, he does his business out of Blender. I got a lot of utility out of Blender in the last few months. Hopefully I can actually show you where it is. Where did I put what I'm looking for? I moved into a new house this year, and I thought about, we were going to, oh, here it is. We were painting this house, and we moved in. We had some horrible choices for colors, and so we just I had a floor plan for the house, and so I was able to bring it into Blender, and I brought it up in cycles, and we spent just a couple hours going through every room, picking out paint colors. And that was a really utilitarian use for Blender. And so last night I was thinking that that's not the artwork use that most people associate with Blender. You're making characters, making some fantastic renders. This was a real utilitarian job.
Did you make that full screen, that picture?
Maybe.
Feels like it.
If you're worthy.
Mouse scroll. The wheel scroll.
Will it do it? Oh, there we go. I can at least make it bigger.
This is basically try before it dries.
Say what? Dry before it dries? Yeah.
You're saying that you modeled this in Blender based on blueprints of the home?
Yeah, I had the plan of the house, and so everywhere there was a wall, I could just extrude something up to the ceiling, and I cut the windows out. I took a picture of it and then straightened the photo, and that was easier than getting the blueprint onto a scanner. This was something I tried. I started out using SketchUp for this, Google SketchUp. Well, it's not Google's anymore. But I figured, that's what it's for. It should be really easy to model a house in SketchUp. And as I was working through it, I realized it's exactly the same to do it in Blender, but when I made a mistake in SketchUp, I had to undo everything and start over because I wasn't familiar enough to fix it. But as I worked in Blender and realized that no, a wall didn't belong there, or I should change the geometry, it was really easy to just remove doubles and add a couple loop cuts where I needed them. So Blender turned out to be a better visualization tool for seeing the house. And then I could do things like just paste textures onto the tile floor here or the doorway. So I was able to go through the entire house, just trying out different colors for every room. And now that I'm living in this house, I'm going to start adding to this model, making it a more architectural representation, and add some trees to the outside. That was another thing.
I would just do the artist. We could really take a tour.
Yeah. Do we have Blender running on this machine? Yeah.
Do we have a Blender?
Yeah,
we did, but I think it got shut down because we were having troubles.
Yeah, we can run it because I was
yes,
going to import it.
Sure.
Thanks. So as part of figuring out how this house is going to look inside and out, I started playing around with NG Plant.
Oh, yeah.
Does anybody use that?
I tried, yeah. Back when I was doing nature experiments, I didn't get very far though. Did you actually?
Yeah, there's a really helpful series on Vimeo, where a guy, I think one of the primary contributors, or the guy who created it, goes through how it's meant to be used. And that ended.
I have to see what you found. You may have found something that I didn't.
That'll take a minute to import, but just going through, I was able to put together a really basic cedar tree. Oh, that's how big that is.
Yeah, NG Plant is the
didn't
one that
translate
does
well.
large flat polygons and does the whole branch of leaves, right? Making it a simpler, low poly model, right?
Yeah, it's somewhat procedurally generated.
Yeah.
The trees, and you get a lot of control over how many trunks you have, how many branches come off of it. Well, it's too bad. This is, I think, because I put this on a thumb drive, it doesn't show up nearly as well because the alpha channels aren't coming through. The links to it.
Yeah, you didn't embed it.
I didn't embed it. I just copied all the files that
Yeah.
are. It does, and that's because there's a single point. Nate can use it for his post-war Russian. I just wonder if I can relink this one.
You showed that before you got here, so everybody knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, I was watching from my car while I was waiting.
Oh, you were watching.
To show
Okay.
up. Oh, go away, screen. Oh, that's what it is. I was hoping I was going to have a better result, but I broke it.
Yeah, check those material notes, maybe.
Yeah, I could dive through it, but I don't know if it's worth it to show. But I mean, the thing you can see from this is how much geometry I didn't have to create. Yeah. These panels are all all these planes that are in here are the leaves, which in this case are the branches of this tree. And inside ngPlant, they actually do map correctly, and I know that I got a render out of them before I decided that I would bring it in and show it today. So it does actually work. But yeah, I blew that one, so I can't show that off. But it was a really helpful program because you can, you can make alders that shoot several stalks up out of the ground. It'll let you work that way. You can have a pine tree that just has very uniform distribution of branches. You could have something like an oak that has really confused and gnarled branches. It's got a lot of variety built into it, and then at the end it puts leaves on, which is a huge hurdle for making trees. So I mean, that was a companion program that I thought was worth sharing because it does work better than the demo that I brought in. I didn't use sapling
that's embedded with Blender.
I didn't see, and I didn't even know about that one. And there's another tree generator, tree and plant. I've already forgotten what it's called, probably One Branch or something.
Isn't there sapling? That's the one that's built in.
Sapling is in Blender, yeah, we were just talking about that.
There's another one that someone in England made. It's their project they sell for $100. And it looked really solid. It looked like a really robust creator because I think they package it with a lot of the textures. And with ngPlant, you have to go find your own. So
what was the name of the one?
Yeah, and I don't remember the name exactly. I think it was One Branch or something like that. Yeah, 100 pounds, something like that, 150 pounds. So I mean, it's pricey, but it's a really full-featured product. Let's see, what else have I been exploring? That's really all I'm bringing in this year is stuff that I've been exploring with Blender. Photogrammetry and 3D scanning, that's one. So here, let's get rid of this tree. Oh, it came in as separate objects. Yeah, so that's it.
That's sort of stick out.
Yeah. All right, let's go up to this fish. This is yeah, this is a wooden sculpture of a fish that I had laying around.
Oh, okay, photograph. Got it. Okay.
I wonder if I should put it in that cap on this, just so it stands out a little better. All right, that's a little less terrible to look at. So this was a structure sensor running through an iPad to a desktop capture. And it's a, it gives a reasonable scan. It's, this one's one of the worst scans that I found. Because it's got this lump on the top.
It looks sort of like a cross between a rubber ducky. Maybe.
We should not microwave your scans.
Yeah. So again, this one, I broke texturing by putting things on it. Oh, there it is. So the texturing helps a lot, which is part of the nature of photogrammetry unless you get a hugely dense scan.
Is that texture auto-generated by the same?
Yeah, the scanner, it's got an infrared camera, which I think is how it gets a lot of its depth and information, but then it uses the onboard camera and its own video camera.
So it generates a UV texture to go with.
Yeah, and that's what's over here on the left. This is the UV texture that generates. And
that's so trippy looking.
It's really trippy and it's really broken up. It's amazing. It's kind of cool that it actually fits together so well on the model.
Just people scan themselves and it's all white. It's really scary.
Yeah, it's like, you unpeel your face, and this is a little bit different.
They sleep, you put a picture on face, and they wake up.
Right. So this exploration, I started using Visual SFM, Structure from Motion, which is an open source photogrammetry program, and that was pretty hard to get good results from. But then I used Reality Capture, which is a hot new program they were giving demos, and that's a lot like Agisoft, which is a really high-end analysis and photogrammetry program that it takes care of lighting. It'll build you light maps and normal maps and bump maps. It will do a lot of work for you and do a lot of cleanup on your mesh that the Sconnect or the structure scanner didn't offer. But again, that's a professional tool, and most of the guys who are using it have rigs with maybe 100 DSLR cameras, so that they're triggering them all together so that they're getting 100 simultaneous shots from a really high-end camera, so they get a tremendous amount of detail.
That's all the time.
Yeah, it's a similar idea. It's really the same idea.
How many individual shots did you have to use to come up with this model?
That's hard to say because for the way the structure scanner works, it's basically a video camera, and as you walk around an object, it's saving images from the video stream. So it's basically turning a movie of however long you want to record into an image sequence. And I don't know, a minute it might take 160 pictures or so. And they're at a lower resolution. The quality of the image isn't as great. It's a little compressed. But we could guess it's maybe 160 pictures, something like that. And that's a number that a higher end photogrammetry program will use and get a really solid 3D result. But again, they'll all be taken at the same instant, and they'll all be taken with better lenses and better sensors. So that was another fun exploration, was just going into 3D scanning and seeing where it went. I didn't have the money to really have fun with the scans because I didn't have 100 digital SLR cameras. I just had one tablet.
It'd be cool to 3D print this one and then put it right next to the real object.
Yeah.
And then scan the 3D print scan and do it again and again and again.
See how long it takes until I just have a sphere.
Scan your pet print back out.
All right. Well, and that's one of the things that with a serious photogrammetry rig, you can do things like scan your pets or kids because they don't need to hold still. That's the one advantage to having a multi-camera setup. You only need an instant, whereas with structure from movement, somebody's got to hold still for a really long time. And if they shift in their chair or they blink or they look out the window, there's enough to throw off the rebuilding. All right. All right. This is a concept that I looked up a while ago because Blender simulates cloth pretty nicely, and the movement looks really good. And I was looking at writing an add-on that would help make costumes easier to deal with, easier to manage, easier to resize. And so I just wanted to see what was out there in Blender. And I found that Blender has this cloth sewing feature in it. And I mean, all the demonstrations I saw had pretty low quality results. I mean, it didn't look like it was a very, very good feature. And the demo that I brought in isn't going to be a whole lot better because this is a 10-minute demonstration. But when you get down to it, there's a lot that it'll do for you. And this is, I feel like I was able to add a little bit to what the demos out there offer because it's not, it has to be like a 3-step project. The way that Blender's interface works is a lot like a program called Marvelous Designer, which is a really sweet clothing program like that. Kojima's studios used it for the last Metal Gear Solid game. I think Assassin's Creed used it to make clothing for their characters. It's got some really high-profile clients, and it works in much the same way. And I'll break that down. I have this dummy object, which is a collision object. And if I just go into local mode, it's just some objects put together. Yeah, I see it too. But the cloth object, I modeled it. Let's see. So here's how I modeled it. It's these panels, which, this could be traced from a pattern, a clothing pattern that you buy at a store or download online. I just chose to make them squares because it was really quick. There's a front panel, a back panel, and a shoulder strap. And then I made a shape key to put them into place. And this is pretty much how Marvelous Designer works. You start with a curve object, and then in a 3D window, you're able to put them into place close to where they would go. And then all you need to tell Blender is where to sew the edges together. And that's what these empty edges are here. So that you can just tell it to bridge this gap and then delete only faces. And it'll leave you with these edges connecting the sides together. And in this case, I mirrored it. It'll handle that pretty well. And when I simulate, what you'll see is that Blender shortens all these edges down to 0. And then it activates the cloth simulator. So it's gradually shrinking that down to 0. So with this low-res model, it's pulling the pattern around the object, deforming it into place. And at low res, it's tough to, it looks very flat, but it's actually a really solid result. The trouble that you run into with this is that if you try to use a subsurf modifier to just get more density, it doesn't know how to fill in the sewing springs. So that's a place where it breaks down. You have to commit to the higher density and then you would have to connect all these gaps together, because if you simulate that now, it still brings it together, but there are all these gaps in between. No, here, there, now it's smooth.
And then the only way to do it properly is to start out with a higher resolution mesh.
Right, and so to make it look really good, yeah, you have to commit to a higher density mesh, which I'm always really resistant to do. I really like staying low mesh for as long as possible. And in this, in this case, it's probably not worth doing a low res cloth simulation. It just looks so much better at high res. And in something like Marvelous Designer, it's creating a really dense mesh that they expect you later to bake and retopologize.
So did you subdivide that?
Right now, it's just got a modifier on it. If I was actually going to use this, I would need to apply the modifier. Because if you look at where the shoulder comes in, it's not connected because of the way the subdivision surface modifier is. It's smoothed out. Yeah, it's rounded the edges, and the vertices don't actually line up. Ha ha ha.
Could that be fixed with edge loops or something?
Well, no, because it's still going to smooth those edges. It's just going to smooth them less, and so you might be able to you get a closer result, but you still probably have to go and manually weld the points together. I think in the end, the solution is, you know, keep your low-res model, make a copy that's really high-res, and
Save often.
save often. Keep backup copies on a different layer. If I do that, move it to layer 3. Anyway, I was just gonna apply that. Oh, maybe not.
You still got to leave at 6.
Oh, are we
I
out at
guess
6?
remind you.
I didn't know we were out at 6. I thought we were on the schedule till much later.
Well, we can go much later because there's no group after us, but
Okay.
we're all expecting. I got a couple of presentations from people that are like Alex Montana made us this video and stuff.
All right. Let me just bring up the last thing I worked on then. Yeah, in my spare time I made this little search engine. You know, just for kicks, and I don't know. It seems like it's getting a lot of traffic. I don't know if I'm going to keep working on it. At the start of 2015, this was what I spent a lot of time working on. I got irritated with the hair grooming tools, the particle hair comb tools, and so yeah, I made an add-on that would take a mesh object and turn those sheets into particle hairs. And you know, for the most part, I think what I wound up with, there's one image that I was really hoping would be not. You know, the comb tools aren't as bad as I thought they were, but the one thing that I still think HairNet works really well for is I had a picture of a spiral. You know, somebody's hair combed into a spiral, and that was something that I think would be really tough to do one hair at a time. And I don't know where that picture wound up. Sorry if this is going to broadcast a lot of noise. All right. This isn't even my video. This is exciting. Somebody else made a video of my plugin. I'm just learning this now. Okay. Oh yeah, sorry.
Fast forward.
I am. It's just slow.
Is your plugin commercially available? Is that how somebody else made this too?
No, it's just free. I mean, it's a Blender add-on. I don't charge for it, so it's the Blender wiki has links to where it can be downloaded, and I made a video showing how to use it, and so did this woman.
It's free. 3 cheers for Rhett.
Hooray for
Hooray!
free!
Hooray!
What is the name of it?
It's called HairNet.
I like that.
2 words or 1?
One word. So there's the result. You know, she had a mesh object that was that shape, and after clicking a button, it dumped a whole bunch of hairs in there. The plugin can subdivide. So if you have like 3 spines on your mesh, you can add in extra hairs, extra guy hairs, so that it can be much more dense than what you model.
That was the mesh that disappeared.
It stays there. You can tell it not to render it. So if you want to change it, you can just revamp it. It'll recreate existing particle systems so that you don't have to keep deleting and recreating systems on its own. It'll sort of do its own cleanup.
Where can you get here?
Off of the Blender projects page.
You were just on it, I think, or at least it had a hyperlink.
Yeah, let's clear out and stop the video. I mean, I Googled HairNet, and it comes up with the wiki.blender.org page, and that has the download link on it. It's, this is the one I put on GitHub.
Right there.
So you can get it through GitHub. You can download it as a zip through there, or actually connect to the project. It has a project page on the developer site, and a few people followed that.
Yeah, because hair is melting.
Yeah, and this was this is a project to make it a little less daunting. It's still not perfect. I've got some caveats down at the bottom, and And in the end, I learned some really interesting things about the hair system because you really can't precisely place the hairs because of the way that Blender creates and positions hairs. It'll move them on its own, and there's no way around that. So a few people wanted more precise placing, and they wanted Blender to quit messing with their hair after making it, and it's just not possible.
You could spend hours combing.
Yeah.
It's like with dolls all over again.
Yeah. So that was my big project for the year, was for the first couple months of the year, was just working on that.
I thought that was from a long time ago. See,
That might be.
everything seems like a long time ago to me. It's just my memory.
All right, so that's
Any questions for Rhett? Oh, you got them all out there. Where's HairNet? How much does it cost? All right, thank you, Rhett.
And we're going to wrap it up real quick here. I've got some presentations that Alex Fontana made for us. Alex is another one of our heavy hitters here in Blender PDX, and he was unable to show up. He's had a hard time with scheduling it in reality, but oh, let's get out of that. I know what I was doing. But he still active, and he still made some stuff for us here. And we're going to show the last two, the last things we're going to show are two of videos from him. Oops. Where did you go? There we are.
277.
All right, here we go. They're similar, two of them. We're going to show both. And
the voice support.
Start over again here.
Hello, I'm Alex Fontana, author of PDX, the voice support, and a fellow Blender user. Like many of you, I like to tell stories, whether written or in media formats. So today I'd like to give you a brief tour of what the Portland Users Group has to offer. Now for me, it all started a few years ago when I was working on a short story called The Martial Arts of Chess. Everyone I talked to said it would make a great animation. Loved cartoons. And a friend suggested Blender among other software. He also said that there would be a large learning curve. I tried it. Oh yeah, it was daunting, but the potential and versatility was truly amazing. That was version 2.66. And after some time, self-study, basic modeling, it became clear I'd need more help if I ever wanted to get my project completed. That's when I found and joined the local users group, which is what I'd like to share with you today. These are all a bunch of great guys and gals, but in particular, I want you to look at that guy in the middle, the one with the red shirt.
Don't look at that guy.
That's Chinuval. And the reason I wanted to point him out is because he was instrumental in getting the Art Institute of Portland to host the Blender Users Group, so that every third Saturday from 3 to 6 p.m., anyone at all can come in, see and use Blender on state-of-the-art computers. And it's all for free. One of the first things we did together at the club was to create a logo and a mascot. Now, this is Oregon, and half the people in Oregon prefer a beaver, whereas the other half prefer a duck. So how to make everybody happy? Blender to the rescue. We put the two animals together, and voila, we ended up with a platypus. The group has its own website, BlenderPDX.org, where you can go to find or ask anything about Blender. And there's several links for further inspiration. Why have our own website? That's a great question. Part of it is that we actually get to practice building special effects for websites by having our own. And that's another thing that other users can come to and use our website for. So, Blender again, get to do things on actual websites, creating more commercial value. One of the first things you'll notice on the home page is that periodically we feature works by other sources so that we can compare and learn from them as well, pushing the envelope of what animation and computer graphics can do. As you peruse through the website, you'll see one tab that's called Pipeline. If you click on that and drag down, you'll see there's a whole bunch of sections, each one part of the workflow process for doing your very own animation. And each page there has links and information on getting free software that takes care of those various processes. Another thing is that we have a projects tab where various users are doing their own projects. Helping these people is, this is one of the best things that I've ever done. Making assets for other people in the team greatly expanded my understanding of Blender. As you can see here in some of the examples, I've got a hatch that's fully working and lit. That escalated into finally making a full military base, both exterior and interior, for just one scene in a feature that a friend's working on. We also have things like
that is, of course, Little Red Cap, Nate's project.
A little monster that was on Blender Swap. I enhanced it, put a procedural on it, and now he's become known as Grout because Andrew Price's little texturizing that and a gourd procedural from Saudi Pax, who's another instructor on the YouTube videos for Blender. Just a few other things, because I got to wrap this up pretty quick here, is some of the blogs that I've done. We feature like lip sync, full instructional, and you can get a little taste of that here. I'm going to let that run. And thank you.
Des licences, des ordres, sacrilèges, qui ont accompagné les dernières célébrations du carnaval, et afin que chacun puisse se recueillir en son âme et prier avant le carême, nous disons ici que vous êtes...
And with it being the year of the fire monkey, that's it for me here. This is Alex Fontana at Portland, Oregon, Blender Users Group. Wishing everyone out there blend well. Bye-bye. Hello, I'm Alex Fontana, author of PDX, the voice of Portland.
He did another one that didn't have the dialogue and just a background soundtrack that has text information, and he put in some other scenes in there. So this will be the last thing we're going to show here, and then Blender PDX will be signing off. So here we go.
qui ont accompagné les dernières célébrations de carnaval. Et afin que chacun puisse se recueillir en son art et briller avant le carême, nous disons ici que vous êtes
We got a question here, if anybody's got it. Let me sign off from the world. That's it for Blender PDX. Sterling, or is there anybody or anything that we're handing over?
Here.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, so excellent sessions, by the way. They were some of the best today, from what I can tell. So well done, everybody there.
Congratulations, guys. Pat yourselves on the back.
All right. Awesome. So, hey, thanks everybody for making this a really excellent World Blender Meetup Day. We look forward to WBMD 2017. And yeah, can't wait to get this content online. So thanks everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.